Welcome to the Hawkeye Sidekick podcast. And you're very welcome back to the Hawkeye Sidekick hurling podcast with your host Mark Kennedy. We're back for a third season. Delighted to have Kieran Collins and Ruairi Walsh on. That's how things. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you, Mark. All good.
All good, guys. I suppose kicking off National Hurling Leagues fast approaching. I suppose we'll get your thoughts, lads, on the pre-season so far. I know the Munster Senior League's been curtailed with weather, but the Walsh Cup, there has been some interesting results there. We'll look at the Allianz Hurling League, some previews, get your thoughts on the players to watch out for and some teams to watch out for as well. Also look at third level education as well. Fitzgibbon Cup's well underway. Look at some of the key marquee results there. And also the schools finals. We're getting into the provincial deciders in the next few days as we record. So get your predictions there, guys. I suppose, Kieran, we'll start with yourself on the pre-season thoughts here. Just in terms of the Walsh Cup, Wexford triumphant against Galway very convincingly yesterday. I suppose initial thoughts in terms of the Walsh Cup this year, Kieran?
Yeah, I suppose on a Wexford point of view, like starting with the Carlow game, they've kind of gone up a level each game as it went. I thought yesterday they were really impressive, just the work rate they brought to things. I suppose a lot of young guys getting game time, which probably didn't happen for the last couple of years. Not as much as needed to happen. I think the management are getting a good look at a lot of players. I suppose look to win, be it it's a pre-season tournament. It'll be a good confidence boost for Wexford going into the league. I suppose no better team to ground you than Kilkenny next week in Nolan Park. Wexford have beaten them already there this year, and they won't want to bow over to Wexford again, especially at home, because they're not going to see each other again till the end of the championship. So I'm sure they want to lay a marker down. But I suppose look for Wexford for pre-season. It's I suppose been very good. There's been a lot of hurt in Wexford the last couple of seasons, and I think it for management over the team, it'll I suppose get everyone to buy into the plan and what they're doing at the minute, and I suppose just maybe the form, if they can keep that form going through the league and have a kind of a half decent league, the confidence will be going to the championship there will be right where it needs to be. So look, I'm sure it's early days, it's still January, but I'm sure everyone is very happy and how things are gone so far.
Yeah, Rory, get you in there in terms of the Walsh Cup. I know there wasn't much to view from a Munster perspective, but from your perspective, Rory, what stood out for you in the Walsh Cup campaign?
Yeah, well, I suppose first of all, kind of the way the Munster League kind of didn't finish. It does raise again the question of maybe playing these tournaments while Fitzgibbon Cup is in action. I know it depends county to county. For some counties are probably, depending on the amount of guys involved in colleges hurling as well. It kind of look, I suppose the plus side is it does give management a time to maybe give panelists who have come in a chance to kind of go through some of the systems the team are working through and training, puck out strategies and position. It does give a chance like that, but like just looking at even when Clare and Limerick played and Clare and Cork played, they were extremely experimental sides. And I suppose like going into the league, management are probably trying to, decide who are their panelists in terms of, who coming out from under 20 level, which guys are kind of maybe putting their hand up a bit more than others, guys who impress in training and see how they get on a match day. But I think management will really learn about guys in the next few weeks ahead. The fellas that kind of brought in from, as I said, from under 20s and stuff, who maybe have shown up so well in training and in Munster League and Walsh Cup so far, they'll probably get their chance now at a higher level in league. And so I won't even say it's shadow boxing, because at this stage in the Munster League, they didn't even get a chance to get to the final round. So, but look, I'm sure, if management didn't want them, it wouldn't exist. So management do see a benefit in it, and they do get a chance to have a look at players where this time of year they may not really get that opportunity otherwise. But in fairness, in Leinster, things seem to go fairly well in it. You ended up with Wexford, Galway, Kilkenny at the business end of things, which kind of shows, the bigger counties were taking it, maybe a bit more seriously than some of the fringe counties at this stage who are keeping their powder dry for the league. But and fair play to Wexford. Silverware is very important, especially with new management in, and it does give them a bounce going into the league campaign.
Great tonic for Wexford heading into the National Hurling League. And I suppose Look, I was down in Thurles yesterday for the Dylan Quirk Foundation challenge game between Tipperary and Limerick. It was a great occasion. I think it was about 3,500 there. And from all accounts, Tipperary looked pretty sharp on day. Now, granted, Limerick had a very experimental team out, but John McGrath kind of looked very prominent, scoring 2-9 and ably assisted by the likes of Jake Morris. So I suppose, Kieran, kind of looking at the National Hurling League, Division 1A, Division 1B, obviously you have the likes of Kilkenny, Wexford, Cork, Offaly, Waterford and Clare in 1A, and then 1B, Limerick, Westmeath, Antrim, Dublin, Tipperary and Galway. I suppose what's standing out for you? I mean, looking at Kilkenny, Wexford straight off the bat next Sunday, I mean, mouth-watering game to kind of kick off the league campaign for two counties.
Yeah, I'll just go back to one point Rory made there about the pre-season. I think like managements do like them, because if they're not playing in the Walsh Cup or Munster League, they're going to be looking for challenge games. So, you know, it is a good opportunity for managers to get a look at young players and give them the experience of a match day. I think the way the league has gone the last couple of years, which same questions every year, you know, who's going to take it serious? I don't know, do people want to win it? I suppose for certain teams, it might do no harm to win the league or to progress to maybe to the latter stages and even the final. You know, there's a lot of teams who are in year two of managements, you know, like Liam Cahill in Tipperary, you know, Pat Ryan in Cork, Micheál Donoghue in Dublin. Like the Liam Cahill, will he approach the league different to last year? You know, I think he's trying to unearth a few young players as well. So I think the league is probably maybe a level up from the pre-season competition. You know, you will still see young guys and inexperienced guys, but maybe kind of with a bit of experience, like maybe one on each line. And I think there's certain games will just take a life. Like I think Kilkenny, Wexford, you know, local rivals, and just you know, I suppose the history and not wanting to, Kilkenny especially not wanting to lose at home when, you know, before they play them in championship. And you know, I think there'll be a bit of helter-skelter to that, but you know, a lot of these games tend to be kind of dead rubbers, you know, depending on who plays. And look, it's a great opportunity for managers to have a look at players, but you know, it still is a national competition. And you know, I think the way it's gone the last couple of years has been a little bit disregarded. I suppose there's a lot of hurlers have gone that haven't won a league medal, and probably would like to have one in their collection. But I think, I don't know, maybe GA need to look at some incentive. I know they're thinking next year for relegation, but even just you know, whoever wins the league, that there be some kind of some sort of a bonus down the line, where there be, you know, if they finish fourth in their group, that they're in a back door or something like that, just to push teams to, I suppose, get at the latter stages to try and go and definitely try and win it, like, but definitely to go as far as they can in the competition.
Absolutely, get you in there, Rory. I suppose incentivizing the league. Would you be in agreement to that?
Yeah, well, just as well what Kieran said with the relegation this year. So basically, what's going to happen is the top three teams in 1A and 1B are basically safe for next year, and the 2-4 teams play off. There'll be 7 teams next year in the new form Division 1. I think that puts a bit of pressure on the teams in 1A, because you have Clare, Cork, Kilkenny, Wexford, Waterford in there, which means that one of those teams will be Offaly as well. Sorry, one of those teams. Let's think like Offaly probably are going to be the favourites there to be, you know, one of the teams that are going to end up in Division 1B next year. So one of the other 5 is going to be in there with them. So I think what I think might happen is you're going to get teams wanting to get their wins in early. So even Clare and Cork on Sunday, I think it's the live game in TG Carr Sunday afternoon. I think both teams there will just want to get the win on the board early. The earlier games might be a bit more competitive, you know, and if teams have their 3 wins or whatever, then they might start to relax and rest players and blood players later on. But I think it's kind of going to be a bit the other way around now this year. Teams are going to want to, like, rather than building things up as the league goes on, they'll want to get their wins early. Looking over 1B as well, you have Dublin and Tipperary this weekend, and Dublin will have to travel to Salt Hill later on in the competition. It's going to be hard to win there. They have to play Limerick and Croke Park. With Antrim and Westmeath in the group, Dublin might fancy maybe taking 2 wins there, but they'll still need a 3rd win. And this is probably their chance. Tip in Parnell Park, home game and first round in the league. So it's a big game for Dublin. Like, after all the progress they were making 10 years ago, let's say, when they were winning Leinster All-Ireland semi-final against Cork and everything, it would be a disaster if they slip down from the top tier. And yeah, it's a realistic, with the way things went last year, the way they finished with the All-Ireland quarter-final performance against Clare, look, it is realistic that it could happen, and especially the group they're in, Galway, Tip and Limerick in there. So, yeah, for some teams it's going to be really important. And as I said, I think it's going to start, the league will actually start with teams going right at it and trying to get their wins in early to avoid end up in a relegation battle at the end of the group stage.
Well, I think, Rory, the counter argument to that is, like, you know, teams probably want to finish the league on a high, you know what I mean, and kind of ramp it up to championship level. You know, I suppose if you have a really important game, I know, like looking at Wexford, they have Dublin first game of championship. You know, they want to get to close to championship level as they can in that last league game. I think it's against Cork, and like, you know, just to get up to that, because like it's a huge jump in intensity, and you know, and I think it probably
depends, Kieran, on where teams are as well. You know, let's say a Limerick, John Kiley kind of is more or less sure of his team, or you know what I mean. Depends where teams are. I think teams with new management, maybe as you said earlier, year 1, year 2, you know, they're probably looking at things slightly differently. And definitely counties under pressure are going to want to get wins early in. But yeah, I see what you're saying. There is that gap between league and championship where you don't like even getting to a quarter-final, semi-final of a league and kind of hanging in there, getting to your final. It does keep you hurling longer against good opposition before a championship. Didn't do Limerick any harm last year.
And I think it has to help. Like if you're, you know, it has to help the league just to have that, you know, to have that relegation there. That there is a doubt in the management's mind that, like, you know, instead of putting an inexperienced team out and, you know, not caring about the result, more so performance, probably that, you know, performance does have to come into it. And, you know, maybe it will make the league a bit better.
I think it's a great point you've raised there, guys. I suppose even looking at 1A here, Rory, from a Clare perspective off season, there's been a bit of turnover in terms of the backroom staff. I suppose what's the vibes coming out of the Clare camp heading into this Cork game, because it's right into the melting pot straight away, as you said.
Yeah, and there's going to be a bit of disruption with Clare in the league. Ryan Taylor, as we saw, you know, picked up a serious injury against Kilkenny in the semi-final. He won't be probably back in action until probably the league might come too soon from Tony Kelly. He's had an operation on his ankle. He's going to miss the league as well. Shane O'Donnell has missed the last 2 leagues and seemed to have done all right for championship. So I presume Clare will go that route again. And I wouldn't be surprised if John Conlon is fully rested for the league as well after, you know, with his age profile and all he's done with Clonlara as well this year. So like going with that, then you do have a lot of the Clare lads still heavily involved with colleges as well. Just for the first couple of weekends, like for example tonight, you'd have had Dermot Ryan and Shane Meehan, Adam Hogan playing up in Maynooth. You know, and then you're probably looking at them then playing again next week midweek. So Lohan will have to manage that. I know some other counties as well. So on the other hand, it does give a chance for Lohan to properly have a good look at some of the Clare 20s who got to the Munster final last year. The likes of Keith Smith. Also then as well, you have Keneally as well from Clooney Quinn, who was centre-back last year, ended up having to go back full-back when Hogan became, is the phrase, cup-tied or something, when he was no longer eligible to play because he'd played senior. So anyway, yeah, it does. I suppose it's going to create a challenge for Clare. They're going to be down a lot of experience in the league, but it does give, like, strength and depth is important, and it will give a chance for guys to put their hands up in it. Cork as well, we were talking about, it's interesting, Cork, like, seemed to, judging by some of the guys that had playing in the Munster Senior League, the day they played Clare, kind of a lot of the old kind of guys who've, you know, might be unfair to call them hot and cold hurlers, but, you know, a lot of Cork forwards who have disappointed are still there over the year. Maybe it's the fact Pat Ryan hasn't found any better. I know you've Ben Cunningham coming off and Diarmuid Healy, who were really promising in the 20s. Might be a year too soon, could be kind of blooded in this year, but for Cork coming up to Ennis, they will want to, I think, put down a marker as well here after being turned over there last year in the round robin. Knowing that Clare are going to be under strength, it'll be a great chance for them to go up and get a win on the board early.
Absolutely. I know they have to contend with Declan Dalton being out for an extended period as well, so they have had a few injuries, Cork, but no, it's an intriguing battle. I suppose, Kieran, coming to you, Limerick start their league campaign in Thurles, FPT Semple Stadium, face Antrim. I suppose, Kieran, from a John Kiley perspective, if you're John Kiley, who are you looking for to kind of put the hand up here for selection? I know their first 2 fixtures is the Thurles trip to Antrim and also then away to Westmeath in Mullingar. So any players here, Kieran, that you're looking forward to seeing in the next few weekends?
Yeah, I suppose there seems to be a few of that, the 20s team that lost out the All-Ireland final to Kilkenny. I think one of them for me, and I suppose it kind of featured a little bit last year, was Shane O'Brien. Really impressed with him, what I saw of him last year, and I suppose early, even in the Fitzgibbon this year so far, I think he was impressive. I think Adam English, I suppose he got into the team at different stages last year, another year older. Aidan O'Connor, probably another one as well. I think he was really impressive at 20s. And I think with Kiley, he doesn't rush the younger guys. Like, he'll give them the preseason experience and maybe a bit of league time, and they won't be seen for the rest of the year. And it's like an apprenticeship, really. I suppose he's in a great position that he can do that. But I suppose for me, that would be the three guys I look forward to seeing. I know there's a couple of guys in the backs, Fergal O'Connor, and but I think looking at players who might potentially be on the, I suppose the older side, Graham Mulcahy, I think he's still in it for this year, but will he go another year? And I think the likes of Shane O'Brien to come at that time, or Adam English the same, it'd be very important to replace players who might be stepping away. So that for me, they'd be the three I'd be looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, Rory, I suppose put that question to you as well from a Limerick perspective. Any underage talent here you're looking forward to seeing in the league this year?
Well, yeah, very interested in Fergal O'Connor there, because Limerick, as we know, are like with Richie English getting a very unfortunate serious knee injury again, and of course Finn as well. Like, Limerick are going to have to look for full backline options. And Fergal O'Connor, is one who has, he's been on the panel there last year, played under 20s, plays midfield for Effin. He's Nicky Quaid's club, but like underage, he was always seen as a back coming along underage. Very talented player. Like, I'm sure he's going to get, as Kieran when he's going to get a good bit of league time. I think John Kiley does need that strength and depth in the back line, just in case like another injury too in the full back line. And it's very hard to take one injury in a certain line, let alone two in the same line. So also then forward, and I'd agree with Aidan O'Connor. He was on the bench for the All-Ireland final last year, but he didn't make some of the match day panels. And a player I've seen a lot of underage, and especially from minor under 20 years, and he's a serious talent. And for Ballybrown as well in the club championship, plays centre forward for Ballybrown and scores heavily, and game to game, very consistent for them. So he's one that you would like to see push on, and just get a bit more, establish himself as somebody who can be sprung off the bench. As Kieran said, with the likes of Graham Mulcahy, another year kind of on the clock for Graham, and you just wonder, like, are the likes of Aidan O'Connor maybe going to kind of pass him out in terms of order, like who'd be sprung first from the bench, or who will Kiley see as game changers. Yeah, so and agreed there with Adam English as well, because Adam, as you know, he started against Clare in Enniston around Robin 2 years ago. So you'd be thinking 2 years down the line, is he any closer to kind of making the starting team since, than he did that day? He does need a big year this year. And look, he's a seriously talented hurler. Even the glimpse we saw him in the Munster League up in above in Clarecastle, like, he showed flashes of brilliance that day as well. So yeah, like there is this bunch, and the one thing that you might worry about is, like, these guys now are pushing on to maybe 23 years of age now, and even like Cathal O'Neill, who came on and obviously set the world alight in the Ireland final. Some of the scores he got were incredible, but like none of them seem to be actually putting a full place down. Like, they're still not able to kind of push out that 2018 team. There's still 12, 13 of them starting when it comes to the crunch, and maybe it's about time that some of them really started to nail down a place. And I presume Kiley will need to see it. Like, the reason Kilkenny lasted so long and came back after a year or two and won more All-Irelands was that he was able to kind of revive the team with guys pushing through all the time. And it's probably something Limerick maybe need to start thinking of this year, even just for the next couple of years ahead.
I think, Mark, as well, you could probably add Colin Coughlin to that list.
Yeah,
even though he's been a player who's been around for probably a good few years, been on the panel, he's never pushed, he's never made that push. And look, the elephant in the room, like, the whole Kyle Hayes saga, he may be required as the year goes on, no one knows yet. But I think he's a big player. Like, he's still playing with Fitzgibbon with UL, and he's going to get a lot of game time there. But I think, he's been around a while now, and I think, he needs to start making a push into the panel at this stage.
Yeah, like, he came on in the Ireland final against Cork, as a 20-year-old then. And he probably would have thought himself, like, give me 2 or 3 more years and I'll be starting on the team, but it hasn't happened yet for him. So, as you said, he might get that opportunity this year to, nail down that place.
Guys, can we kind of switch to Tipperary? I know I kind of touched on briefly at the start of the podcast. Looked to me as if there was pretty much a good, strong lineup that Liam Cahill basically announced for that Dylan Quirk Foundation Challenge match. I suppose, Rory, from your perspective, what are you expecting from Tipperary this season?
Yeah, and Tipperary kind of like last year finished, so like the performance against Waterford was like, a win would have had them in the Munster final, and it was a non-performance. And then Galway, everybody thought, okay, here's their opportunity now. They had their bad game against Waterford, and against Galway, it was like a strange thing to say for a Tipperary team. They kind of lacked belief and confidence that day. I know the margin at the end was maybe 3 points, but Galway missed 4 or 5 open goals in that game. It could have been 10, 12 points. I think we said at the time it was a 3-point hammer, and was how we referred to it on the podcast afterwards. So, like, what are the real Tipperary? Because they started the Munster Championship like a whirlwind up in Ennis last year, so close to beating Limerick as well. And they had great performance to blow in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and then suddenly to finish the championship the way they did. So I wonder, will Liam Cahill be one of the managers that is taking the league seriously this year, and will want Tipperary to see as much of them as possible, get them into a league final, because obviously some guys that he trusted last year let him down when it came to the crunch knockout game as such. So maybe the more he sees of them and get them to a national final, as Kieran said earlier, kind of a bit of a big day out, national final, and maybe get a trophy on the board, because the last couple of Munster Championships for Tipperary, we're talking about 2 years ago, that they lost every game in the group. Last year, as we said, it was Jekyll and Hyde from Tipperary, and the way they bowed out, they need maybe, and this is a hard thing to believe, but maybe Tipperary need a confidence booster, and winning the league might be that boost they'll need.
Yeah, because they looked pretty sharp yesterday, Rory. Now, granted, it's an experimental Limerick side, but what I'm excited if I'm a Tipperary fan is seeing the likes of Owen Connolly come back into that midfield. I know there was injury problems and he took a gap year. Brian O'Mara obviously came on late as a substitute, but Billy Seymour as well from Killadangan might be a guy that may be able to replace maybe Seamus Cannon inside, or maybe in wing forward position to win some primary ball here, Kieran. I mean, there's some youthful Connor Bowe as well, probably would be eager to make more of an impact than he did probably in Championship, Alan Tynan. So there is a nucleus of a nice little middle third there, I would think, for Tipperary to really kind of develop this season.
Yeah, I think Tynan has kind of carried on that form from last year, in midfield. He was explosive last year, and what I've seen so far, he's kind of similar. I think the biggest problem Tipperary had last year was just consistency in certain players. So you look at Jake Morris and I think likes of Jake and Conor Bowe coming on, but I think the main man was Noel McGrath. I think the trouble is, like, when Noel McGrath does go, what big player is there to step up? He was incredible last year. I think Brian O'Mara coming in, I think, like, I've seen him play Fitzgibbon final last year in the flesh, like, he was incredible. I think he's going to be the centre back for Tipperary for a long time to come. I think Liam Cahill is possibly looking further afield again than he did last year, and he's really looking down the well to see what his disposable talent is there. I agree. I do think he will, try his best hand at the league. I think we saw that with Waterford as well. They didn't kind of hold back on it, and I think a lot of it last year was like they had a high intensity early in the league, and they kept it going through into the early rounds of Munster Championship. And I think thinking back to last year, I think we kind of half predicted it that, once they got to Championship, like, could they keep that going? And, I think they just ran out of gas, really. They were relying on certain players every day. I'll even look at Jason Ford. He seems to light the world alight, or set the world alight in the league games, but when it comes to Championship, he's not as influential. And, I think early round, Sean Ryan was looking good this year, but, I think Tipperary are definitely at a crossroads. Their transition is the word that's used, but there's a lot of young players being looked at. But I suppose for me, the thing is certain players that will be stepping away in the next couple of years to add to Seamus Cannon and the likes of Bonamar, obviously, like when Noel McGrath start going and John McGrath, and where these players are going to come out of. I think, like, whatever about this year, it's looking further down the line. You could possibly, I know that the minor team there win a couple of years ago, but it takes more than one to fill these gaps, and I suppose I'd worry for Tipperary the next 2-3 years.
Yeah, I'd agree with you there. John McGrath, though, yesterday definitely looked very energised in the game. The 2-9, as I said, looked very prominent in open play as well. So he could be a guy that wasn't really used that much, if I'm brutally honest, in starting lineup last year. But it looks as if it kind of looked to me as if it's a last season salvo for quite a few of the guys that came on. It was a big occasion for Tipperary supporters yesterday, given Dylan Quirk and the service that he'd given to Tipperary hurling until his untimely death. So, look, I think Tipperary kind of tried to set the marker yesterday. I suppose, Ruairi, can we talk about Waterford? We heard an awful lot of the media, but some bites from Davy Fitz regarding Waterford. What are we expecting from Waterford this year? Is there anything here that we really should be looking at, particularly in the league, from a Waterford perspective?
Yeah, I think last year, if you remember, the match of the league for me last year was Waterford versus Tipperary. There is a bit of bad blood there. I don't know, is it from management or players from management or whatever it was, but there was one game with a real bite to it. It was an evening game in Semple Stadium a Saturday evening. Unfortunately, they're not in the same group this year, so hopefully they will cross paths in the league. I know they're definitely going to cross paths in Munster Championship. It'd be nice to see them have a cut at each other in the league as well. What I thought out of all the Davy soundbites, the most interesting one for me came from Peter Quealy, in the selectors, when he said that last year, we set up for weeks for Limerick, which was round one. We prepared for Limerick, and it just kind of got me, because if you're preparing for a round robin, you should be setting yourself up to be for 4 games. And obviously there's certain players in each team that you'll try and man mark or target, and but to kind of say to put all their eggs into beating Limerick, and they nearly did, but it was as if they realised after Limerick game, oh yeah, we're playing Cork next week, and there was non-performance against Cork, non-performance against Clare, and then from nowhere, when they were out of the championship, they produced it against Tipperary. So they're definitely an enigma. There's talent there. With Desi Hutchinson, you're looking at one of the best forwards in the country. There is talent there. Strangely enough, then, as well, I suppose, Austin Gleeson stepping back this year. Now, I know he's a lot of miles on the clock and everything, but you kind of wonder, and even with Stephen O'Keefe not going in last year, and he was asked, and a few of the Ballygunner boys, if they really believed that Waterford were capable of winning All Ireland, you'd imagine they'd buy into it. Maybe I'm wrong there, and maybe, but it just, you'd imagine, even likes of Stephen O'Keefe saying, okay, give it one good year with Waterford, but the fact they're not kind of buying into it is a bit of a worry for me. But as we know, they're incredibly dangerous. I reckon they'll have a look at Davy for personal reasons. He'll be looking at the Clare game in the league, try and get a win there, and give them that bit of confidence, because they're going to have to go up to Ennis in the round robin, and to get a win over Clare will give them a boost going into that as well. Because Waterford traditionally haven't performed well up in Ennis. And even last year in Thurles, which was their home game, it was a really poor performance against Clare, only to turn it around, we said, against Tip. So yeah, Waterford, maybe consistency. Davey probably looking for a consistent league, because if anything, Munster Championship last year was a complete lack of consistency. And going forward, I'm sure this year that they will learn from last year and prepare for all 4 Munster Championship games equally, and not put all their eggs into the first game, into the one basket for getting off in the win,
Yeah. Kieran, can I get your viewpoint here? We've Offaly, we've Antrim, we've Westmeath in the league. Which one of those 3 do you feel might be the most impressive of those 3? It's an arduous task for all 3 of them, but is there one that's standing out from you there in terms of that might cause an upset here in the league?
Yeah, I think Westmeath, and Antrim, you could probably put in the same boat. Their, managements have been there a couple of years. Joe Fortune is year 4, is he? Gleeson maybe year 5 or 6. You just wonder, have they taken them as far as they can take them? Obviously, Westmeath had a huge result last year, coming back from 17 points down against Wexford to win. Antrim, albeit probably not getting that many victories, but were competitive, should have beaten Dublin. A couple of lads have stepped away for Antrim this year, and you kind of just wonder, maybe a change of voice, would it help? I think it's hard to say. I think for me, out of the 3, I would probably pick Offaly. Just, there's a lot of that underage talent coming in. Adam Screeney being one of them. Charlie Mitchell. A lot of these younger guys, and they'll surely add to the panel. I think Offaly are probably, they probably feel that they threw away the Joe McDonough last year. Look, it was probably the game of the year, if not, a game of the last couple of years, especially Joe McDonnell level against Carlow. But I think, I suppose just the manner that they kind of handpicked Carlow, I suppose it gave a mental advantage to Carlow in the end to get over the line. So I think Offaly will be, probably seeding after last year, and I'd say they'll be, with the underage talent coming in, probably pushing guys who might have had jerseys for the last couple of years, and I think of the three, and this is based on just what I expect, and I know you're not looking at form, but I think you'd have to say Offaly of the three.
Yeah, indeed. Ruairi, just quickly here, I mean, Galway, Kilkenny, I suppose Galway, they've made subtle backroom personnel changes. Eamon O'Shea's gone in. All vibes locally here in Galway is that he's made an instant impact with the Galway training sessions and the preparation. I suppose, Ruairi, from your perspective here, the ambition must be clear enough. It must be an All-Ireland for Henry Shefflin this year.
Yeah, an All-Ireland. And again, just like we mentioned, Tipperary might be a team that will target league. I think Galway do need that boost as well going into it. Like, threw away a Leinster final last year, just panicking in the last play of the game, more or less. So again, a trophy on the board here, and like Kilkenny, like Shefflin coming from a Kilkenny background where they were never shy to go out and win league and championship, or you know what I mean. The league never did them any harm. I think Galway will want to go well in the league. Get that national final trophy on the board as well. Again, like they're another team that are a bit of an enigma in terms of like within a game, their inconsistency within a game. Like that Kilkenny Galway Leinster final, like they played well for 10 minutes, disappeared for 10 minutes, came back for another 10. Like that's worrying within a game. The players are dropping standards so much for a 10-minute spell. Same against Limerick last year, where they hurled up a storm for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, incredible. And then second half, now combined with Limerick's up in the ante as well, but like non-performance from a lot of the main men from Galway there as well. So I think Shefflin will be, obviously he'd have been scouring the county during the championship. See, can he strengthen the team? Can he make them a bit more steely? Good signs from St. Thomas's because they had plenty of steel when needed. But Galway I think are definitely probably going to be looking to have a very strong league campaign.
Yeah, Kieran, get you in there with Galway. I mean, Fintan Burke, Shane Cooney, the spine of the St. Thomas's All-Ireland winning team there a few weekends ago. I suppose it's going to be intriguing just to see where Fintan Burke and Shane Cooney actually feature in Henry Shefflin's plans this season. Yeah,
I'm sure like Shefflin, one thing he does have is a huge probably pool of numbers to look at, because Galway have always had a considerable, their underage success is, is probably unparalleled to any other county, so I think like Galway are like physically, and they're probably very similar to Limerick in the personnel they have. It just seems to be a bit of steel that they've been lacking the last couple of years to see out big games. Even look back to the All-Ireland semi-final against Limerick. They were banging that game first half, and just the battle died away. They were like a different team in that second half. So I think there's a lot of pressure, and definitely a lot of pressure on Shefflin. I think it's and probably similar for Clare as well. It's should get off the pot this year, I think. And if it doesn't happen this year, you're kind of looking, will it happen? Like you're looking at like a young Cork team coming that a lot of people are predicting good things for. So it's not going to get any easier. So and I think even looking at Shefflin yesterday, he had all the signs of a man under pressure. It's only January and early in the season, but if not the All-Ireland, it definitely has to get a Leinster this year, or it'll be hard to see him being there next year.
Yeah, totally agree with you there. I mean, like David Burke, I think is going to commit to another year. Like Conor Cooney as well, who was very impressive down the stretch for St. Thomas's as well. So, look, I think the pressure has been put on here. Locals here really demanding more from the side than what they found in the second half against Limerick in the All-Ireland semi-final. And I suppose, guys, we haven't even mentioned Kilkenny yet. I mean, Dermot Ling, second year in charge. I suppose, Kieran, from your perspective, Leinster, they're the standard bearers. So, I mean, it'll be a good test for Wexford, obviously, at the weekend in Nolan Park. But I suppose Dermot Ling's objective is clear, to get some attacking firepower to supplement TJ Reid and Owen Cody.
Absolutely, yeah. One player actually I've seen a bit earlier this season is Owen Guilfoyle. He came on against Carlow, he looked really lively. Paul Cody as well looked pretty good. look, you know what you get for Kilkenny. The attitude and the work rate they bring gets them 50% of the way there. Probably on paper, you look at their team, they shouldn't be in All Ireland finals or shouldn't be winning 4 Leinsters in a row, but they are. And that's just that just shows how good they are. I think it's another. I think like it was a very, very good first year for Ling last year, and I'm sure he want to build on that. They're evolving from the way Cody played. I'm sure Cody's sitting in the stand wincing at the sharp buckles and cornerbacks getting up the field as far as they are. But I suppose it's another year, and I think year 2 is probably the hardest year for managers because I suppose year 1 you get a bit of leeway, but like this is the year now that Kilkenny fans will be looking for. They know if they get to an Ireland final, they're not going to want to lose 3 in a row. I think for Ling, things have gone well in year 1, but I presume the pressure from the Kilkenny fan base will be up to another notch this year.
Guys, just quick predictions. I know, look, as we go to air here, it's early on in the week, and there could be experimental sides out, but I suppose Division 1A on Sunday, Clare v Cork and Ennis, Limerick versus Wexford, Nolan Park, and Offaly versus Waterford and Tullamore. I suppose maybe Ruairi, we can get the ball rolling here. Maybe some quick predictions here.
Yeah, so Clare Cork, I just maybe, as I mentioned there, Clare probably a bit going for the beginning of the league in terms of kind of injuries and maybe managing workload of a lot of players. They seem to have an awful lot of players involved with colleges, with UL going so well at the minute, and Mary I as well, where a lot of the lads will be going. I'm going to go with Cork there. Kilkenny versus Wexford. Wexford coming off the win last week. They're going to be bouncing into that game. I'm going to throw down a draw for that one. Offaly, Waterford, Davey will want to get his win in early there, especially against Offaly. They're kind of the team in the group that if Offaly turn you over, you're a good chance you might end up in that bottom 3. So I have to go Waterford there. And 1B then, Galway home to Westmeath is going to be a Galway win there. Dublin, Tipperary, despite Dublin bringing Tip out of, for the last few leagues, Dublin have been playing these kind of games in Crow Park, but back in Parnell Park, as you mentioned, it's a really important game for Dublin, with Galway and Limerick also in the group, to avoid maybe finishing the bottom 3, but I just don't see them beating Tipperary here in this one. I'm going to go with Tip, and Limerick will beat Antrim, even if it's outside of Gaelic grounds and inside in Thurles. So yeah, so you're going there with Limerick, Galway and Tip in 1B.
Great. Thanks, Rory. Kieran?
Yeah, I think for me, you start with Clare and Cork. I think Clare as well, if you look at it last year, Clare brought a team into Gaelic grounds in Limerick, and they were like a team that had to fry that morning and did 4 hours training before the match because they were like the sluggish, they were stuck to the ground. And I think with the players that have been missing, and I think Lohan will use this early league especially to give younger guys a go. And I think just looking at the Cork team that they had named to face Limerick the 3 times, it was fairly, there was some household names in there. I think one of them is Brian Saunderson, the goalkeeper for Middleton. I think probably struggled a little bit with Patrick Collins the last year or 2, and maybe he's a guy that they're really looking at to build on from the back. And I think Cork's, I suppose, real problem is they need to nail down a fullback. They've been chop changing for the last couple of years, but I think Cork, I think they'll want to build a steam of momentum, and I wouldn't be surprised if Cork were to go on and win the league. So I'm going to go Cork in that one. Kilkenny Wexford. One thing I do know, I think it will be helter skelter. I think it'll be it'll be a high intensity game, and I think Rory might be far off in the draw. It might be a bad result. There was only a point in the difference 2 weeks ago when they played them in Callan. Again, it's so hard to call when you don't know what teams are going to be named, but I think I'm going to back Rory that one for a draw. Offaly Waterford. Waterford seem to have been hot and cold in a couple of challenge games so far this year. Took it on Merkley, or seemingly got beaten heavily by Kilkenny the weekend in the challenge game. But I think for Davy, again, looking at Offaly coming up, you'd expect him to get the win. I think for her, Callum Lyons is back. He's home and he's training. It's going to be a hard year without Ozzie Gleeson. He pulled off some massive scores and probably some man of the match performances coming off the bench at times over the last year or so. But I'm going to go for Waterford in that one. Dublin Tipperary, I half give Dublin a chance here. Michael Donoghue is his second year. Saw him against Galway there last weekend. They weren't terrible. A little bit sloppy at times, but I think if they, I think if Donald Burke plays, you give him a right chance any day. But I'm just at home as well. I think they're going to want to start the year on a good note, and I'm going to give the nod to Dublin. Limerick for Antrim. Yeah, look, I think you're going to see experimental teams for Limerick, but I think in Thurles as well, you'd have to give the nod to Limerick. And Galway Westmeath, same, Galway.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you there. I think the one game of interest for me would be Offaly and Waterford, just to see how Offaly will get on, particularly with a home support behind them on Sunday. I think it might be interesting there if they can be in thereabouts with about 10 minutes to go. I think that might be maybe the marquee headline, maybe Offaly getting something from Waterford. I kind of completely agree with you, Kieran, and Ruairi on most of the other fixtures. I suppose, guys, we'll move away from that. We'll review, obviously, the 1A, 1B, and we'll get your thoughts on Division 2 next week. Maybe we'll switch to third level education, Fitzgibbon Cup, I suppose. Ruairi, initial thoughts on Fitzgibbon Cup. University of Limerick looked very strong, but there does seem to be a few protagonists there waiting to dethrone them.
Yeah, UL have been winning by cricket scores so far. But like there's tougher groups in the group. UL had like Ruairi, for example, UTC, and travelled up to Maynooth, have won both their games, and they mightn't have the strength and depth and luxury to bring on like inter-county seniors off the bench that UL have, but they have a very strong start in 15. You've Jason Gillan in goals, brother of Aaron, goalkeeper for Patrick's last few years, very massive puck out, long distance frees, regularly on the score sheet for him. Then you have likes of Adam Hogan, Diarmuid Ryan from Clare, and Shane Meehan as well. Limerick, you've Shane O'Brien inside in the full forward line. You have McLaughlin from Portumna and Galway, who kind of broke into the Galway senior team for the first time last year as well. You've Joe Caesar, to very like Devaney, JD Devaney of Borrisalee in there as well. So like they have a serious first 15. The gas thing as well about colleges hurling is like at the weekend you pay €20 to go in and watch these guys, and they're free to go into any college game during the week, and you go in and you see all these inter-county stars. So yeah, I'm just fortunate enough to live close to university here and go up and see a lot of these guys from time to time. And also I suppose the other team as well, Waterford, SETUW, formerly Waterford IT, they have this year, interesting, like they have Barry Hennessy and Robbie Hanley from Kilmallock down there, a bit of kind of experience in with the young lads. They've Billy Power, formerly of UL, Clan A Power in Waterford, Patrick Fitzgerald, Ballygunner. They've a few good hurlers. The young hurler from Cork, Sean Walsh, Carrigtwohill. The last actually they fought out a victory. It was 11 points to 9 against MTU Cork. So I don't think it was a classic for the neutrals. But Walsh got 3 points from play there in a tight game. So look, Waterford as well, they're similar to Ruairi in that they probably wouldn't have the strength and depth. I don't think anyone does of UL, but you can only put out 15, and on any day any team can be beaten. And at this time of year, weather conditions come into it and everything. And as we saw a couple of years ago, red cards as well. Remember Keane Lynch for Galway turned the game harsh red card against UL. So look, I don't think UL are going to steamroll it like they did last year. Probably I think Ruairi definitely could give them a good game, and Waterford as well. So yeah, I think they might be made to fight this one out. And the fact that they've had it so easy so far, you wonder will it come against them when they do meet a big challenge.
I'll say, Kieran, any thoughts there on Fitzgibbon?
Yeah, I like what Ruairi says. Yeah, I mean, like UCC have probably been a little bit disappointing so far. A couple of inter-county players like Brian Saunderson mentioned earlier, two Downies, Owen and Rob, Ben Cunningham, Jeremy Ellerick. I think University of Galway as well. I suppose the big omission from last year is Nyland. He's not there, and I think they kind of heavily relied on him at stages last year for frees.
Indeed.
They also have Charlie Mitchell from Offaly, Liam Niall Collins, and Tiernan Killeen. But I think if you're looking at, I suppose, performances so far and squads, UL it's if it was an inter-county team, you'd be afraid to take them on. Like Adam English, Colin Coughlin, Donegal Dalek, Fergal Connor, Aidan O'Connor, Garrod O'Connor for Tipperary, Mark Rogers from Clare. They're huge players. I suppose it is, at this stage, you'd reckon it's UL's to lose. But I have been really impressed with Mary I as well. I think Rory's named a couple of players there involved. As good a full forward line you'll see as well, with Shane O'Brien and Meehan in there, McLaughlin. It probably is UL's to lose, but, I give Mary I a good shot.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of hoping that UCC maybe get into the mix here as well. They're tradition powerhouse. Fitzgibbon Cup hurling. They've had an amazing pre-season. I mean, they played Cork behind closed doors how many times, particularly under 20s, and the prep has been on point. So for them to lose by 8 points to Mary I last week was a bit of a shock, but they do have Maynooth going down to the Mardyke next week. So if they can win that, then obviously into the knockout stages. But very exciting competition, and we'll cover it more in the next few weeks. I suppose, guys, before we go, schools finals here, we're into the provincials. Harty Cup has not disappointed. Ruairi, I suppose we have Artscoil Reach facing Nina in Ennis on Saturday. I suppose, get your thoughts there.
Yeah, so you've Harty Cup final with Artscoil Reach having a chunk of the Clare minor team who won the All-Ireland last year. Michael Collins at wing forward, Matthew Holler in midfield, Mark O'Brien from Cratloe inside as well. So you've experience there of big days. But Nina, funny enough, Nina represented by 9 clubs all over North Tipperary this year. Dave Darren McCarthy scored 13 points, 4 from play in the semi-final. He was on the tip panel that won the All-Ireland the previous year. So Tipperary aren't short of experience either, Nina, and it's going to be a cracking final. So yeah, it's going to be a hard one to call. Like, people were joking, I suppose, that Ennis was kind of a home advantage for Artscoil because there is a good chunk of Clare lads in there. I think it's 9 or 10, all from kind of South Clare, Cratloe, Clonlara making up the bulk of it. But then again, from Fintan Fitzgerald, centre forward, who was starting in the Limerick 20s last year. This is incredible to have in your Harty Cup team, being able to call on a guy who's a county under 20, and also was kind of centre forward for the Mungra team that won the Senior B in Limerick this year to go up. So, so there's, on paper, you're probably looking at Artscoil having, they've the more recognisable names, but as I said, Nina are picking out of 9 different clubs across North Tip, have been very impressive so far, really good in the semi-final, and it's finals are hard ones to call. We had Tulla turning over a fancied Artscoil team 2 years ago in the Harty Cup final, so Nina will kind of take heart from that, and yeah, it's going to be a cracking game up in Ennis. Probably I'll just go with Artscoil. Yeah, they've, as I mentioned, a lot of experience, and look, Cusack Park, that they will be a lot more familiar with the venue than Nina as well. It might count for something in a tight game.
Yeah, Kieran, get you in there. I mean, Artscoil will be probably warm favourites, but Nina can only look at the passage that Artscoil Reach have had to this final, quarter-final, hard-fought 4-point loss or win to John the Baptist, then the semi-final, Thurles CBS. We've all seen the viral clip of the game-winning point against Thurles CBS. So I suppose Nina are going into this, pretty much with shackles off. And I mean, had an impressive result against Charleville, who turned over CBC. So I mean, Nina should be coming in here with good confidence.
I think you can probably look at it a couple of ways. The fact that they're, probably going up against a team who are, steeped in recent Harty Cup tradition and victories, it probably puts less pressure on them. Probably going in as underdogs. And then to just have to look at the Tulla story from 2 years ago. That if you're looking at Artscoil Reach, like beat how many points? Was it 7-8 points up? Probably more in the first half, and to let Thurles back into it. And look, it was fortuitous free at the end to win it. So, look, as Rory has pointed out, worked with a lot of the young lads over the years, that it's hard to predict with, there's no, depends how they sleep the night before and, all these kind of factors. So, but I suppose just the fact that they have been there and there's a lot of experience in the last couple of years, I think you'd have to just give the nod to Artscoil, just a slight nod. But I don't think it would deter Nina. I think they come in and give it a right shot.
I'd agree with you there. I think it'll be a fantastic spectacle in Cusack Park, Ennis. I suppose the following day, on a Sunday, we have the Connacht Schools final. This was a round robin, played with 5 teams, and actually the teams seeded 1 and 2 have gotten to the final. A presentation of Athenry against St Raphael's of Loughrea, local derby game, obviously. Again, Rory, from your perspective here on schools, who are you fancying here?
Yeah, look, a hard one to call. I wouldn't. You'd probably be a bit more in tune with how the teams are going up there. They are the traditional powerhouses, Loughrea, Athenry, and there'll be no love lost there either. Yeah, I suppose like Athenry probably backbone by a lot of the outstanding talent coming through from South Galway and Claren Bridge, and probably maybe given Athenry a nod on that grounds, like having not seen either side play, but just base again kind of on looking back on kind of I suppose names, and probably a bit more standing out for Athenry.
Yeah, no, like the two played very closely fought pool stage game in October. I suppose Raphael's come with an emphatic semi-final win, so there'll be Boyd good confidence. But I think Presentation Athenry have a mission this year to go one step further than they did last year, particularly in the All-Ireland final series. So I'll probably hedge the bets on Presentation Athenry, particularly with the Claren Bridge. Underage success flourishing at the moment could be the edge, but look, these two rivals, there's not much between them. And
Am I right in saying, Mark, they played in the final last year as well, did they?
They did indeed, Kieran, yeah. So Raphael's were beaten last year, which is always an added motivation, but I think that should be a cracking fixture. And then ultimately, lads, the senior schools, the Kilkenny El Clasico, St. Kieran's and Kilkenny CBS on Wednesday week here, 2:30 p.m. Nolan Park, Clubber TV. I mean, it'll be an amazing spectacle in Kilkenny here. Kieran, I suppose, two teams here that the form book goes out the window here. It'll be a magnificent occasion.
I think it's a bit like when you're looking at our score, I suppose just the history of St. Kieran's, I suppose you'll have to give them the nod. But again, same for Nina, you'd say for CBS in Kilkenny is that like being the underdog, there's no pressure on. There's probably more pressure on St. Kieran's to go and win it. And I think we've seen in recent years, just because if they don't win it now, it doesn't stop them going any further later on the line. So I think for me, you'd probably just have to give Kieran's a nod.
Yeah, I suppose Ruairi coming into this contest, St. Kieran's avenged the Leinster Schools final, lost to Offaly Schools by beating Offaly Schools in the semi-final. Kilkenny CBS got through a very impressive good council team. So, I mean, all in all, I think it's going to be set for an epic battle.
Yeah, and look, the players are going to be extremely familiar with each other. Like in a game, a lot of us are club mates, playing with each other in county development squads and the whole lot. And they say familiarity breeds contempt, and it is a big rivalry between the two schools. And Kilkenny CBS probably have been, in the shadow of Kieran's for years, and would love to get one over them now in the Leinster final. And you give them every chance based on how well they've played so far in the Leinster Championship and the scalps they've taken, as you mentioned, they're good council, New Ross, another traditional powerhouse. And it's a bit worrying for management of other Leinster, let's say minor and under 20 teams to see two Kilkenny teams battling out again in the final.
Yeah, no, nothing in it. I'm not going to even call it because I think it'll be a spectacular spectacle anyway. Guys, might leave it there. It's been a lengthy one, but a good pre-season preview, I think, by all accounts. I suppose next week we can run the rule over the Allianz Hurling League, Division 1, the main storylines, the main kind of performances of note. Look at Division 2 as well, and I know Carlow, Kerry, Loughorns this weekend as well. We didn't even touch upon that. That'll be a superb fixture. And I suppose we'll have a look at Fitzgibbon Cup and also the Schools Cup finals as well. Obviously, the route to the All-Ireland final will be plotted for those schools. Best luck to every one of them. Should be epic encounters. I suppose until then, guys, have a great weekend and sure we'll chat next week.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this podcast episode. If you liked what you heard in this podcast, why not subscribe to the Hawkeye Psychic podcast on either Amazon, Spotify, YouTube or Twitter platforms. You can also follow me at Hawkeye Psychic on Facebook and Twitter for the latest sporting opinions, articles and reports.